Hey guys, my name's Aton, and I'm here to present Harmonia. Harmonia is inspired kind of by my experiences and my partner's experiences with renting property. We think it's kind of weird that when you rent, property, when you put as a renter, when you put up your deposit, the landlord has full custody over your deposit, and at the end of the lease, they kind of have a lot of power in terms of what they want to do with that deposit. So if they feel that, um, you know, you damage their property in some way and they want to take your full deposit, they can just take your money, and really your only recourse is to take them to small claims if you disagree. And small claims court takes time. It's slow. It might be expensive if lawyers are involved, and it might not be worth it depending on how much of their deposit they took. And so we thought, wouldn't it be better if this could be done on chain, where you deposit, you put your deposit in a smart contract, and then that smart contract is governed by the community. Now, who is the community? The community is people who are participating in the protocol, who own some of our Harmonia token and also stake it. Um, and so the way it works is we're going to use the landlord tenant as an example, but this kind of could be used for any type of agreements and disputes where there's some type of collateral involved. Um, so in our example, an offer opens up an agreement, says, hey, it's a 12-month lease, $5,000 deposit, and then the tenant can either accept or decline the offer. Um, and I'm actually going to show you our unit test real quick, just so that we can go. I could show you an example of this. So the landlord starts an agreement, opens the agreement, the tenant then accepts it and deposits a balance of 100 Wei in this example. Um, and then, if everything is good at the end of the agreement, the lease expires. The tenant will just get their money back, and everyone will move on with their lives. But if the landlord says, "Hey, I feel like you've damaged my property. I want to open up a dispute," they open up a dispute, and then they can include some evidence. Files, documents, receipts, photos. Those are all stored on IPFS and are tied to the dispute. And they say, "Hey, I'm requesting in this situation 100 Wei as compensation." Sorry, 100 Wei as compensation, and the tenant can then, or the defendant in this case, who's the tenant, can do a couple things. They can accept the dispute, which means that they're settling. They say, okay, yeah, you're right, I do owe you 100 Wei. So they settle the dispute. The dispute is closed. A transfer happens. So 100 Wei is transferred from the tenant to the landlord, and the dispute is closed. Everything's all good. The tenant can also counter the dispute, and so they can say, hey, actually, I feel like I only owe you 55 Wei. And then in that situation, the plaintiff or the landlord can then either accept the counter offer or decline it. And in each situation, whether the plaintiff declines the counter offer or the tenant just declines the offer initially, the dispute is then open for a public vote. And as I said earlier, who are the voters? The community members, and those are people that have some Harmonia token staked in the protocol. They have the power to vote, and if they vote, they gain some rewards. So they're rewarded for voting, and they could vote either yes or no, and they could look at all the evidence that's stored in IPFS, the receipts, the documents, the photo evidence. That's all going to be available to them to view, and then they can either vote either yes or no. If they vote for the plaintiff, so they vote kind of like a guilty vote, majority guilty, then a transfer of money happens from the tenant to the landlord. The dispute is closed. If the majority vote, for the defendant, then nothing happens, right? But either way, people that are participating in this protocol receive rewards for voting. And yeah, that's kind of a quick overview of how it works. I'm going to go back to the chart again. There's a couple things that we weren't able to complete for the hackathon. So we wanted to encrypt vote results until the voting deadline, and we weren't able to finish it. But our idea was the plaintiff who opens up the dispute, so in this case the landlord, would generate some private key, and only they would have access to it. They would store it in new cipher, um, or and then they would publish the public key on chain, and then the voters can use that public key to encrypt their results, and the encrypted results would be then stored on chain. Once the vote deadline ends, then the plaintiff, in this case the landlord, would make the private key public, so they would store the private key on chain, and now everyone can decrypt the results. And if the plaintiff and defendant and some of the voters, if they all decrypt the results and all agree on the results, then the dispute is resolved based on whatever the vote results are. That was kind of our idea. Fortunately, we weren't able to finish that part of the project. And the reason we wanted to encrypt results is because we didn't want voters just to vote based on the results that they're seeing. So if they see everybody voting a certain way, they might just vote that certain way without looking at the evidence, just to gain rewards. So that's kind of a way to like socially engineer a way to make sure everyone's like participating effectively. We talked about a reward system. We also wanted to create some type of penalty system if landlords are creating frivolous disputes or tenants are, uh, being bad tenants, or maybe voters are not voting correctly, which is why we wanted people to stake their Harmonia token in order to participate, because we could reward people on that token, but we could also take a percentage of their stake away. And those are just some ideas that we talked about. We deployed our contracts on Scale, which is a layer 2 solution, a gasless blockchain, and we did that. We wanted it to be gasless because we wanted people to be financially incentivized in order to participate. And because of how high Ethereum gas fees are, especially right now today, um, you know, there wouldn't be a lot of financial incentives. People would probably actually lose money if they participated in this protocol if we had it deployed on Ethereum mainnet. So yeah, that's just a quick overview of Harmonia. Thank you to all the judges and all the people that helped us throughout this process. Unfortunately, we didn't get everything done that we wanted, but it was a cool experience. I learned a lot, and thank you for listening.